Hey everyone, it's Paul and Kyle.
What's up?
We're back with another episode, a brand new episode of the Hip Hop Debate. I first start off the show. Thank you for everyone. I see the listens, I see the plays on YouTube. It keeps growing each episode, which is awesome. And we can't thank you enough for that because we just want to get our takes out there and we want people to start engaging more with us. Let us know what you think. Let us know who your, favorite rapper of all time is, who you think is the GOAT producer, who all these topics we're talking about. We want to hear from you guys, so always comment, DM, tweet at us. Just let us know what you think. So we're back with another episode. We feel, and the response we've gotten from other people who are close to us, that the style of last episode is kind of what we're going to continue doing, because the debate style was definitely more fluid, and we just feel like it was a better episode for the viewers and the fans. So we're going to keep doing that. So there's no topic this episode. There's no, there is topics, but not just not one topic, many topics we're going to talk about. So we are going to, before we get into that segment, of course, we're going to start with what's new in hip hop this week. So as I mentioned last week, that the Young Thug album is dropping. It dropped Friday, was it 15th? And it's called Punk. And have you listened to it at all, or listened to any of it?
No, I was stuck on the other Young Thug album that you made me listen to. So, but I did see that he dropped it, and I was curious. I was gonna say like, well, if I like Jeffrey, then maybe I'll give it a listen. And I just didn't get around to it, but yeah, I saw that he dropped that, and it's pretty cool.
So it's pink, like it's pink themed, like the cover and everything, and his hair, he dyed his dreads pink.
Yeah.
And the album's Punk, and it's not like that at all. I don't know. It's very misleading, the title. I was like, oh man, because MGK is like punk now, and like it's kind of Punk's having like a little resurgence, I would say. Very, it's in the infancy stages, but I was like, oh, okay, he's kind of going with this theme now, and it's not anything like that. So don't assume anything or expect anything going into it if you listen to it. But yeah, it's a good album. I've only listened to it in full maybe twice, but this upcoming week I'll listen to it more, and I'm a big fan. He has a song with Drake and Travis Scott on it, and that song it's called Bubbly, so it's just a banger, of course. And he has a song with 2 songs with Future, which are good. He has a song with J. Cole and this who's the other guy? I forgot the other guy's name. I apologize to that other guy, but he has a song with J. Cole, which J. Cole has a verse that kills it. And he has, Gun on a few songs because they collab all the time. But No Lil Baby, I was highly surprised because they collab a lot. And so yeah, Lil Baby's obviously, maybe he's a busy guy now. He's one of the biggest rappers right now. So yeah, he's like, I can't cut you a verse. I'm too busy with James Harden. But yeah, and then another rapper, obviously it's he's not around anymore, but he released a new album, is Mac Miller. He released, I don't know if it's, because I'm not really a Mac Miller fan, I'm not gonna lie. I know some of his songs, really his early stuff when he was like when he came on the scene, like Donald Trump and all those like random songs he had at that time, but I never really listened to any of his albums. I'm not sure, I think it might be a mixtape, it's re-released or something like that. I don't know if you know anything about it.
Yeah, so I think it was, I don't know if it was his first mixtape, but it was one of like his first mixtapes, and now it's like coming onto like streaming services, I think. So I thought the same thing, because I don't really listen to a lot of him either. I did like his last album, Circles, which was kind of like his posthumous record. I really like that album a lot. So I listened to that, and I listened to a couple of his other songs that he had like earlier on. But yeah, so I think that's like one of his first mixtapes, and he's just kind of like re-releasing it onto streaming services. So
all right, cool. Did you haven't had a chance to listen to it at all?
Nope, I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't. Like I said, I'm not really like you. You have at least listened to one album. I actually haven't listened. I think Blue Slide Park I tried when we were in college, and I was just like, I personally couldn't get into it. It's honestly, rest in peace. I wish nothing ever happened. I wish he was still here today. I just didn't like his voice. I don't know, that was just me. Very, I don't know, it sounded like he always had a lip in. I don't know, but
probably did.
Yeah. So that's out now, and then I might give it a shot, but I don't know, this Young Thug, gotta listen to him first. And then
give the album Circles a try, because that's I was the same thing. Like I've tried listening to Mac Miller and I just like never like understood it and I never got it. But once he passed away, and then I realized he was coming out with an album that he was like half like working on when he was still alive and then got finished after he passed. That's what kind of drew me into like listening to that album, and it's really good. It's got some really good songs, and I feel like it's really really like deep, and you kind of like start to like understand like kind of like why things went wrong a little bit. Like you kind of start to like understand like, wow, he was like, you know, he had some pain there. So it's a good album. I would definitely give that one a try, because it's probably his best one to me personally. I think it's his best album. So
okay, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely have to give that a shot. And then next, before we get to the weekly topic, I went to Don Toliver on Wednesday. He put on a really good show. I'll try to put in the video version of the podcast a clip or two around this time in the podcast. He shows me a life from your eyes. You told all your friends that I'm mine, but you get quick to tell us. Turn it up. What would you do? Let's go. I let you burn straight there like I had to do. You might get killed. You got me live. We never see you, little babe. And you wanna turn it in her cheeks, little babe. Bet you done it on your knees, little babe. I like to when I'm in a cut in my up and down, way down in your guts. Then he started talking, oh, you said he's so what? Then he started talking, oh, you said he's so what? But it was a really good show. It was at a venue called I'm blanking on the venue. That'll come back to the Fillmore. Sorry, the Fillmore in Charlotte. It's a really cool venue. It had held up to I think about 2,000 people, all standing, general admission. But there was like there was the general admission like pit area, and then there was like two sections in the back that had like they were sectioned off by like a bench or something like they're like ledge kind of thing. So we were in the front in the first section in the back, and he put on a really good show. I just didn't want to get in. I don't want to break anything. I'm getting old now, so I don't want these little kids, these 18, 20-year-olds, moshing, and I have to punch someone in the mouth. But yeah, I was like, he put on a really good show. He's actually a very good singer live, which is, obviously in any genre of music, when you go to a concert, you obviously hope that the person sounds good live, because, it kind of is misleading when you hear them, they sound good on a record. You're like, how much are they putting on their voice, to make it sound good? And then live, you're like, what the hell is this? But he actually, and I think his voice is so unique. So him being able to sound good live, I think was even better. Cause that's, who's another artist who I was really unsure about. And I saw him at a Billboard Music Festival that it was out in Long Island. So I went like twice a few years ago. Ty Dolla $ign. I feel like when I listen to him, I'm like, he sounds good, but I don't think he can sing. Heard him live. He can sing.
Yeah. He's a really good singer.
I was like very surprised at because the way he sings, you would think it doesn't sound like he can like really reach certain notes or really extend his voice, but he actually can. And I was very pleasantly surprised by that. So Don Toliver, similar, where I think I love Ty Dolla $ign's voice. So Don Toliver, I also love his voice, and hearing him live and he brings the energy, and he performs some of his new songs from his new album. It was really good. So I was very pleasantly surprised. I think he's going to, keep getting big. Hopefully you could see him on like either, if not an arena tour, maybe like a bigger venue, maybe like 10,000 people or, 5,000, whatever. He's really good live. And if you ever have a chance and you get into him a little more, I would definitely suggest seeing him. And he puts on a good show, even for a small venue where you don't have much leeway besides like the one screen behind you and some stuff you put on stage. Yeah. He did a very good job and was very entertaining throughout.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
some of your videos, and like I just saw like the crowd just like going completely insane. So it sounds like, he puts on a good show. Like I don't really listen to a lot of his music. I
Yeah.
listened to a couple of the things that you kind of suggested for me, and sounds good. But yeah, like the crowd that I saw in the videos that you and Amanda had posted, I was like, wow, he looks like he puts on a good show. So that's
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you had a good time.
Thank you, thank you. And I'll make sure I add a video or two into the video version of this podcast. Oh, one more thing before we move on to the Wu-Tang, the newest Wu-Tang episode. I don't know, you probably haven't, but I just saw yesterday on social media, on Twitter, Playboy Carti started his tour, the Narcissist Tour, which is kind of fitting. Name of the tour, I think that's his upcoming album, is The Narcissist, or just Narcissist.
Yeah.
If you think like Travis Scott fans, or even like what's his name, Tory Lanez throws on like kind of crazy shows, these Cardi fans are something different, man. They like broke through the security, like the metal detectors. They like pushed them down and shit. It was in Tennessee, I think, and even I saw videos. They were in Charlotte, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago. These fans were like in the mosh pits, not just like, people get accidentally like an elbow or something. It just happens naturally. People are moving their bodies. These kids were like head grab, just boom, like beating the shit out of each other. I was like, yo, I wanted to go to it. Obviously, he's in little bigger arenas, like minor league hockey style. Like we have a minor league hockey, the Charlotte Checkers, and so he's in that arena. It's called Bojangles Coliseum, which I think is a great name.
Nice.
And I was like, all right, well, I could sit in the stands, because I'm not going to go. Like I said, and that's Don Tolliver. It's not even, these fans these are like something else. And there's a picture of him watching the people fight, and he's just like he's not even reacting. He's like, yeah, like, and internally he's like, yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I saw videos and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. I feel like his fans kind of project his kind of energy. Like, he's kind of like the same exact way. So like he loves it when his fans do like crazy shit like that. And I feel like he has like a very like interesting like cult following. Like it's just like kind of like you said, like the fans that like listen to his music. Like I'm a fan of his, but like
I am too.
I wouldn't consider myself like a Playboy Carti fan, like some of the like real like die hard like
like he's not our favorite
shit like that. Yeah, no, I like his music, but like I
Yeah.
would never like go to a concert just to like, oh, I want to listen to Playboy Carti and elbow people in the face. Like I would never like, like, and that's
Yeah.
just kind of the energy that he brings. And his music is the same way. Like his music is just like, so like aggressive and just like kind of like crazy. So
Yeah.
so I feel like he just kind of projects that energy into his fans, and they deliver for him. So it's kind of like a show for him.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I saw these videos like, holy crap. Like these are different people, man. These are different level of people.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll never go to one of these. Even if I become a bigger fan, I'm like, all right, I'll sit in the stands or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll pass.
And
I'll listen to his albums, but
yeah. And I've always kind of felt like Travis Scott is like the same way, especially with like when he has lines with like, people stage diving out of the nosebleeds, and it's not a mosh pit if there's no injuries or real injuries, whatever. So like I've always kind of like seen them, like his fans and Playboy Carti's fans, to kind of be very similar. So yeah, it's just a different kind of energy that those guys bring for sure.
yeah. So that's the thing. Like I've been to, I think 5 or 6 Travis Scott shows. I've been like close, and I've never been in the pit, but I've seen like, you could see it, and it never seemed like it can get crazy. Probably him, and I've seen like Tory Lanez shows too. His shows can get crazy, but I've never seen anything like those videos of Playboy Carti. Like even at a Travis Scott show, they're crazy. They're moshing. He loves the energy. But I think Playboy Carti like wants people to get hurt. I don't know. He's like, that picture of him watching them was like, yeah, this is what I want. So yeah, that was just a quick tangent on Playboy Carti and his tour. So yeah, before we get into the topics, the last thing, like we do every episode, is the new Wu-Tang episode 7. So I always start with it. I'll let you go first if you want to talk about it at all.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I watched, I think was it 7 and 8? The last
This newest one was 7.
Okay, so I watched 6 and 7 kind of like together, and I totally agree with you on 6. Like episode 6 was just kind of like it was good to like have that information and kind of see like how they started marketing themselves.
Yeah.
but it wasn't as like big as some of like the other episodes that we've seen. But anyway, season 7 or episode 7, I would say is probably like my favorite episode of the whole show, because just the way to like see them finally get like airplay on the radio, like that was really cool to like see. And like, you know, the first time that they actually heard Protect Your Neck come on the radio, that like him and Old Dirty Bastard were just like going crazy. So I thought that was like a cool moment in the episode. I also, you know, I thought the episode was actually one of the more humorous parts of the show, where like, you know, the I don't remember her name, but the label manager there just kept saying like, "Oh, my pussy's wet," you know, from listening to this
Lala,
song. Yeah. I just thought that was so like, that was so funny. And then like RZA's brother's just like, "Oh, okay, great, that's
all right.
I'm glad to hear it," you know. So I thought that was really funny. But for me, I think what made the whole episode was just like seeing the 3-track kind of like concert that they did. You know, like I didn't expect that to have them play like all 3 songs in the episode, but I thought that was just really cool. And it just almost made me feel like I was watching like the real Wu-Tang like on TV. Like I thought that was like, you know, it was just so well put together, and the episode was just kind of like so great to just kind of like see all that stuff unfold. And I just love, one of my favorite tracks is I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the one with Raekwon and Ghostface. Couldn't it be so simple? Yeah. So like, I thought that was great. And you know, Method Man, obviously, I think Dave East does a great job.
I think he does
Method
too.
Man. So like and he kind of sounds like him, and he kind of acts like him. So anyway, so I just thought that whole like the way that they kind of showed you that whole kind of set list was just really cool. So I'm looking to see more. I still can't wait for them to start recording Cream on album. So but yeah, it was a great episode. And what'd you think?
I have to agree with everything you said. You know who's actually becoming one of my favorite characters in the show is Jizza. I like the guy, the actor. I think the way he's acting as him, I think he's doing a really good job. And I think I honestly, they're all really, the actors are all really doing a really well job. I think the guy who's doing ODB is doing really good. Dave East, you know, is doing good as Method Man. The guy playing Raekwon, I think, is doing a really good job. And obviously I think the guy playing RZA is doing really well. He's a really good actor. I like him. And obviously his brother and Power too. They're both, I think it's a really good show. It's very underrated. Like I feel like it's not as, you know, out there or just publicized or just in the mainstream as it should be, because I've vaguely heard of it, you know, or I have Hulu, so like scrolling I would be like, oh cool, Wu-Tang show. Then you told me about it and I was like, all right, you know what, I think my brother might have told me, but it was after you told me. I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And then I've just been hooked ever since. And like every Wednesday I'm like, all right, I need to watch it today.
I'm definitely enjoying it. And I would agree, like Jizza's awesome. And I feel like Jizz is so great because he seems like the most down to earth one out of all of them.
He's the most ready to like, all right, let's keep, like he's the most down with RZA on the show. He's like agreeing with everything. He's not giving him any issues on anything.
And like it again, like we kind of talked a little bit, I think last week, about like Ghostface and kind of like how like just like out of the loop he was in terms of like everybody else. But like when you really think about it too, like Jizz is kind of out of the loop too. Like you really only see him like when they're recording or when they're like performing. Other than that, like, you know, like you really don't, like he doesn't hang out with them, and
he doesn't have a plot line really.
Right. Yeah. He's just kind of there and just like participating, which is great because he's just so chill. Like he's just, you know, he doesn't have beef with anybody. You know, he just kind of like raps and like, you know, teaches people like philosophical, like, you know, teachings and stuff like that. And like, you know, he's like the more down to earth one. So like when all of them are getting like amped up or riled up, he's like, whoa, chill out, you know, smoke this blunt and just relax. You know, it's like, so I don't know, he's just more like, he's the most down to earth one out of all of them, other than RZA. But RZA, I feel like, you know, he's kind of like the leader. So he's kind of got like this like ego, you know, to kind of like keep pushing. You know?
And he has to like, he's like like you said, he's the main guy and he's like the mastermind. So he's thinking even like, you know, 5 steps ahead of where they are now. So he has to kind of have that, you know, ego or that attitude where it's like, all right, well, we're progressing. We're on to the next thing, Exactly. Moving from there.
Yeah, so I just, other than the plot line of just, because we don't, before the show, we didn't really know too much about like Wu-Tang and like the origins and how they kind of came to form, so I like that part of the show, but I've been very impressed, particularly this season, with just the actors and how they
Yeah.
portray the real members. In the first season, I was kind of like, okay, like, I don't know how Dave East being Method Man's going to work. I don't know how this guy playing Ghostface, like they don't really seem like the same person. But this season, I'm starting to notice more and more like they're really trying to portray the real people. And I just think that's really cool. So I think the plot line to the show, but also just the acting itself is what's making it so good. So
Yeah.
So I'm interested to watch more. It's definitely keeping me interested for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So awesome. So now we're going to get into our topics. Like we did last week, we're going to have a timer, as you can see at the bottom of the video. If you're not watching, if you're listening, then you'll just hear us talk and then you won't even know there's a timer. But if you're watching, you'll see the timer, and 10 minutes a topic. We're going to debate it, and we'll start there. So I guess I'll go first. With the first topic is who is on the Mount Rushmore of trap? So I think, on the Mount Rushmore of trap, it's such a big, subgenre of hip hop. It's probably the biggest at the moment, you could say. So on the Mount Rushmore, first to me, I think he's like the first guy on the Mount Rushmore. I think Future. I think Future is just, he ran, say, what, 2014 to like 2017, 2018. Like, you wanted a track with Future, or a hit with Future, you were getting a trap song 9 times out of 10. You might have a trophies or a random song here and there that isn't, but Future is running trap. So he's my first guy on my Mount Rushmore. Then my second guy is Young Thug. Kind of similar. He just came a few years after Future, but he has kind of carried the torch from Future in a way. Future still obviously is huge. He's still, very, very relevant. But I think Young Thug has kind of taken that torch and kind of maybe not elevated it, but at least kept it to where Future kind of left off that. So I think Young Thug and Future are definitely the two newer since the 2010s, or 2012, you could 2013, around there. It's been, to me, them two, and then everyone else in terms of trap music. Then my third guy on there, my Mount Rushmore is T.I., because T.I., even though he kind of, went more mainstream, or he kind of just had different style of hip hop, he's actually considered to a lot of people the creator of trap music. His first album is trap music. He's obviously, there's debate, him, Jeezy, or Gucci Mane, they all were around the same time. But I would have to put T.I. just because he's like the forefather, you could say, or the originator in any, if you might not agree with me, but I think T.I. is the originator in that way. And then the final guy, I think he has to be on the list. I think he should be on everyone's list, but we'll see with you. Rick Ross. Rick Ross, 2009 to like 2013, 14. Rick Ross, BMF, was it was it that song, was it Justin Bieber, or what was that song? I got that Justin Bieber, please. Oh, Believe It, I think. What Rick Ross had, like, from like what God, Teflon Don, God Forgives I Don't, and Mastermind, those 3 albums, that run he had, he was killing trap. And he every time, Rick Ross, every single trap song that he had was just a good song or a banger. And I think that you can't be denied in that way of Rick Ross being on the Mount Rushmore. So that's my Mount Rushmore: Future, Young Thug, T.I., and Rick Ross. What about you?
All right. Well, I'm gonna get your yelling at me out of the way. I did not put Rick Ross on my list.
Okay. Well, how do you not have Rick Ross on your list? Okay. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I did think about him. I definitely did. But I don't know. I just kind of feel like I went with a lot more like Southern, and he is Southern, but more like Atlanta based kind of rappers in trap, just because I feel like that was kind of like the area that kind of like started it off, I think.
Yeah.
So I would definitely agree that he's definitely a trap artist, and definitely one of the more prominent artists in trap music, especially with kind of like the run that he had. Like you talked about Future, Rick Ross also had a little bit of a run for himself,
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that. in terms of like he's a very influential trap artist. For me, we were talking a little bit before the show. Like I feel like me personally, like I don't listen to a lot of trap music, at least what I thought was like, I never really like knew like what is actually considered trap. So I actually had to do a little research for this question. And it took me a while, but basically like what I've learned about trap music is that it's basically like it's Southern hip hop, but it's more just like about like, selling drugs and, being in like the trap and drug dealing and all that kind of stuff. And so when I was making this list, I kind of had to think about like, who do I think in hip hop like kind of resembles that the most? And I went back and forth with a lot of people. Like at one point, I think I had Juicy J on my list
Wow.
because I feel like because I feel like with 3 6 Mafia, right? Like that was such like a big, like, kind of trap style. At one point I had 2 Chains just because, he's another guy who like always is talking about like selling bricks and selling dope and, moving cash and stuff like that. So when I think of like the culture of trap, like I start thinking of those people. But when it came down to it, the 4 people that I picked, first, definitely have to go with T.I. I think he's the godfather. Him and Gucci Mane and Young Jeezy and Yo Gotti, they all were kind of like around the same time. And you can really consider all of them to be godfathers. But for me, Gucci Mane, Young Jeezy, and Yo Gotti, like they don't have as great music as T.I. does. I think T.I. is a lot better rapper. I think he's able to talk more about being in the trap in like an intelligent way. It's not so like corny and cliched and stuff like that. Of course, you kind of referenced the album Trap Music. Like if you have an album called Trap Music, how are you not a godfather of trap? Like, how are you not on the Mount Rushmore? So I think that was, not only the start of that kind of genre of hip hop, but it also, it was basically the blueprint. Like that is the album that, people kind of look at as like, okay, if I want to make a good trap album, I'm gonna do it the way T.I. did. So I feel like that album, was really big for the genre, and it brought it into the mainstream. And it also kind of made trap music kind of contemporary. Like T.I. was, for the most part of his career, and still is, a very contemporary artist. And to be able to bring kind of a new genre to hip hop into the mainstream is big, and you should be on the Mount Rushmore for that. So I agree with you on that. I also agree with you on Future. I personally don't, see like why Future is like so hyped. I think that he's a good artist, but there's no arguing like the albums and just, the success and the singles that he has. Like, again, kind of taking what T.I. did and bringing trap music into the mainstream, like Future has just kind of like elevated that, to a point where it's like, it's almost undebatable that he's one of the greatest. And then the last 2 guys that I picked that, I thought were, I don't know, like, again, I kept going back and forth, and I had to throw him in there because that's just how I feel. But I had to put Lil Jon in there. Lil Jon, and
that's actually good. That's really good.
With the Kings of Crunk, like, making basically crunk music, which was basically like a subgenre of trap music. So when I think of that, like, I think of him and just kind of like what he's done, not just for Southern hip hop, but for the trap community and the trap genre. So I definitely think he's up there and kind of making it more popular and kind of making it a style of music that everybody can listen to. You don't have to just be like, this like gangbanger from the South to listen to trap music. Like, you can listen to a Lil Jon album and, it's basically the same thing, but you can party to it. So I feel like his style of doing that really has put him on the Mount Rushmore. And then my last guy, this one I really contemplated on like whether or not he should be on here or not, but I actually said Pusha T.
Pusha T.
I think Pusha T is, he fits that persona. He may not be from the South, like Southern, like he's from Virginia. So he may not be from like Atlanta or like a Tennessee or even like a Florida or Texas. But when you think of a guy who is like always rapping about just like being a drug dealer, it's Pusha T. Like, he fits that persona probably more than any artist, to me, any other artist in hip hop. Like, he is the one guy, like, when he is rapping, like, I am actually scared of him. I am scared to like run into him or see him at a show and be like, hey, what's up? And like pull a gun on me. You know what I mean? Like, I am like, he scares me. And so when you just think of like a guy who like fits that whole like trap persona, that whole like, I'm a drug dealer, I'm gonna rob you, whatever, like Pusha T fits that persona. And so when I think of just like the culture of trap, I think of those four guys. Some of them, like most of them probably aren't like the greatest rappers of all time, but when you fit like the persona or the culture of trap music, I think of those four guys. So that's kind of why I put them on my Mount Rushmore. So I said T.I., Future, Pusha T, and Lil Jon would be on my Mount Rushmore for trap.
Okay. Everyone, every listener, please, I'm going to post a poll. And even if I lose every other argument, please do not let me lose this argument. I think I obliterated him, but it's up to the listeners who think had a better list. But that's for them to say and not me to say, so I'll leave it at that. So that's our trap route Mount Rushmores. So the next topic, and again, I apologize. The timer, I'm doing the timer on my phone. I apologize to everyone, and obviously to Kyle because he can't see it. But the timer, we're trying and it's not working, so I have to get rid of that. So I'll keep the pace going. But the next topic, and I'll let Kyle go first, is which artist or album would you recommend a first-time hip-hop listener? Recommend to a first-time hip-hop listener?
Yeah, so for me, if I'm thinking like a hip hop listener or somebody who's never listened to hip hop, this one took me a while. It took me a while to think about like, what would I want to give somebody who's never listened to hip hop before? What would I want to give to them as kind of like their like starting kind of like piece into, becoming a fan of the genre? And I thought long and hard about it, but for me, I have to go with Graduation by Kanye West. I think, first of all, I think that's like, for me personally, like that's one of my favorite albums by him. But I think when I'm thinking of somebody who's never listened to hip hop before, I'm thinking like, how can I draw them into this genre? Like, how can I get them interested? And the first thing I think about is just the singles that were on that album. Can't Tell Me Nothing, like, a song that you can like sing along to. Stronger has that Daft Punk sample, where pretty much anybody that listens to any kind of music knows like that song, So just kind of having like that kind of sample in that song, I think would, make a lot of people who've never listened to hip hop before kind of be like, okay, yeah, like I know this song, like this is cool. I like how he kind of, changed it up a little bit. Of course, you have Good Life with T-Pain. Like, what is there to say about that song? Probably one of his biggest singles. At the time, T-Pain was like also like really big. So like the two of them together was just awesome. And it's just a great catchy song. Like T-Pain has a great hook. And then Kanye, does his thing on his verses. So, what more can be said about that song? Flashing Lights is another one that probably maybe some people have heard before, but like didn't know it was like a Kanye song. Like you can probably hear that song a lot on like, commercials or anything like that. Like it's one of those songs where like you kind of know it and you've heard it, but you didn't actually know like it was a Kanye song. So I would say that one too. And then the last single was Homecoming with Chris Martin. And if you're somebody who listens to rock music, or if you like Coldplay, like, hearing somebody like that who's not really affiliated with like the hip hop genre on a track like that, I think is a good way for people to kind of be brought into the hip hop genre. So I think of those singles. I also just think about like the featured artists, like Lil Wayne is on the album, Mos Def, DJ Premier, Chris Martin, like I said, and even some people who don't get like credits, like Young Jeezy. He's actually on the album. Jay-Z's on there, John Legend, Neo, Timbaland, Mike Dean. Like these are all people that are kind of like featured in the album in like some way. And that kind of really started off like Kanye, because Kanye like started doing that a lot, especially on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Like just so many people contributed to that album. Yeah. And so I feel like this is kind of like the start of that. Like Graduation was also the start where like he just started like, bringing people in who are really famous, but like they may have a very small part or a very small role in his album. So I just kind of appreciate that about this album. Also some of the samples, he samples like Elton John, Steely Dan, Michael Jackson, Public Enemy, like all very different genres of music are sampled in this album. So to me personally, like I feel like if you like any type of album or any type of music, like you're going to find something that you like on this album. I feel like this album has like a lot of things for like everybody to enjoy. And then last but not least, like I just think, again, we've talked about Kanye in this kind of realm before, but just the influence on like later generations of rap, he kind of made it okay to not be so like gangster in rap. And this was kind of one of those albums where, again, he kind of projects that energy. And I feel like even with like 808s and Heartbreaks, this was also an album that kind of like helped the people like Drake and J. Cole and Kid Cudi, Lupe Fiasco, like all of these guys kind of
Yeah.
had that influence from a Graduation or an 808 and Heartbreak, to just kind of be a little bit more emotional and talk more about like mental health stuff on rap, and not, you know, so much like, you know, gang banging and, you know, just being like a gangster. So I feel like all those things kind of play into the fact as to why I would probably give somebody who's never listened to hip hop, I would suggest them that they listen to Graduation by Kanye, because all those things are just so important to just music in general. And like I said, there's something on this album for everybody to listen to and everybody to enjoy. So if I had to pull somebody into the hip hop genre, it would be with that album.
Okay. That's actually a really good pick. The more you talked, I was like, huh. Initially, I was like, all right, that's an interesting album, especially of his to pick.
Yeah.
But that's actually, you made a lot of good points in terms of him collaborating with other artists and
Yeah.
other genres, even like you said, Elton John. Obviously, the Michael Jackson sample we all know, but you know, and using, you know, Mike Dean, Timbaland, all these other artists and producers on his
Yeah.
album. And that's really kind of like, and that's what you said there is really something that made me think, like, he's ever since that album, he's collaborated with, like, every album has had a lot of collaboration. His first two albums were, you know, it was a lot of just him. He produced almost everything. He, you know, wrote everything. All the concepts were his. And then he kind of just, with Graduation, he was starting to slowly transition into, say, like with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, of just crazy collaboration. Even Donda, you know, crazy collaborations with so many individuals.
Right.
So I think that's a really good album to, you know, like with the influences, like you said, from other genres, to have that, you know, on that album, to kind of get you either accustomed or even familiarized. Oh, I know Chris Martin. Oh, I know, you know,
Right.
oh, this Michael Jackson sample. Oh, this Elton John sample. Like, oh, it kind of brings you into it, or Daft Punk. So I have to agree on that sense. But obviously, my album's different. But it's, I think, a very, very, very that level artist. I picked so I originally was going to pick Kendrick album, but originally I picked To Pimp a Butterfly, and I was going to say that right before you started talking, and then I switched it. I think Good Kid, Mad City for a first time hip hop listener would be a better album to listen to. I think being able to get that storytelling, and that's what like hip hop kind of originated as. Hip hop, you know, some of the greatest artists are great storytellers, like a Kendrick or a Nas, or you know, a Kanye can do that, a Jay-Z could do that, you know, any, you know, great Eminem can do that. Every great artist can do that. And I think Good Kid, Mad City is something where we've talked about, where I feel like it could be made into a movie, and being able to visualize so much in that album, and being able with the little skits, seeing like it's a whole story. And I think you know, you get the Janet Jackson sample on with Drake on that. You get you know, Pharrell producing on Good Kid. You get, you know, all these types of songs where you get, like, say, like I said, with Drake on Poetic Justice, like a slower, like, love song. And then you'll get Mad City, where he's going, you know, talking about Compton. And then you'll get Backseat Freestyle, where he's just going off on a Hit Boy beat. And I think the ability to have the storytelling, and Kendrick, like Kanye, is always very, very strategic with his sampling, of course, and also his features. Kendrick, you know, is very, obviously, I think with To Pimp a Butterfly and Damn, he was even more strategic, but he's very strategic on this album too. And I think getting someone into hip hop, getting them into that storytelling aspect, I think would be benefit in them liking the genre as a whole. I think, to me, more than any other artist and or album, I think just the way Kendrick is, like I said, I keep saying, so strategic in everything he does. And I think this is a good intro album, especially first into Kendrick, because if you go, I think To Pimp a Butterfly, when you started talking, I was like, yeah, that might be too intense, or too, like, because To Pimp a Butterfly, until maybe a year or two ago, I was still hearing new things or understanding new things. Like, it's an album that just, there's so much into it that at first listen, or first even 3 listens, you're not going to get everything. So I think with Good Kid, Mad City, it's easier to digest, easier to get all the concepts and what he's trying to say. And I think that for a first time hip hop listener, Good Kid, Mad City, I think is be a great introduction to hip hop.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. I mean, obviously, it's for me, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. Like I own it on vinyl, and I listen to it like regularly. Um, I think that this, if you're into like you said, like a good story, like you want to hear like a good story, like that is like a very good album to listen to in terms of like a conceptual piece of like hip hop music. I was thinking that it would be, I was still trying to think like, I want to eat like for a first time hip hop listener, I kind of want to like ease my listener in, I feel
Yeah.
like, Kendrick, even on that album, like I still think that that might be too like aggressive for some people, or just kind of like
Yeah.
too like in your face, so I was kind of trying to go for like, I knew I had to go for like a pop rap album, and that's kind of why I said like Graduation. But I was also like, I kind of have like a funny story to this too, but like I was kind of thinking like when I think of somebody like who like I'm like directing this whole like kind of like topic towards, I'm thinking of people like my dad, or like my significant other Bree, who for the most part listens to country music, so like what would they like? And my story is that, so one day I don't know what we were doing. It might have been like a Sunday, and it was like NFL, Sunday or whatever. So we were kind of getting ready to watch our games. And so my dad, I get a lot of my music influence from my dad. My dad is, very big in terms of like, not so much like hip hop, obviously, but like he's kind of influenced me to like listen to like a bunch of other things. So I really get like a lot of my musical interest from him. And we were just hanging out one day, and he's playing some music, and all of a sudden I just hear, "Would you realize that you were a champion in their eyes?" And I was like, "Oh, like this is a Kanye song. Like, Dad, like who sings this?" And he was like, "Oh, this is Steely Dan." And I was like, "Oh, well, did you know that Kanye like samples this like loop or this song like in one of his songs?" And he was like, "I have no idea what you just said. Like, what is sampling? I have no idea." I was like, just listen. So I played him Champions, and he was like, "Oh, like that's Steely Dan on the Kanye West song." So I feel like that's like something that like gets other people that may not be into hip hop kind of like, "Oh, okay. Like now I'm going to try listening to this. I'm going to try listening to more of this." Like he's taking songs that like I grew up as a kid with, and kind of like putting them into his own music. So like for me personally, like it's that aspect that kind of makes me think like more people kind of get drawn into hip hop when they have
Yeah.
something to relate to. But I think Kendrick's a good pick because, like you said, like you want to kind of like show people like hip hop can be like a story, and rappers are storytellers. At the end of the day, that's what they do. And so,
Yeah.
like I said, like I definitely agree with your pick. I think that would be a really good one. For me, I was just trying to like think of like an album that would like ease people in, and for me, Graduation is the one. So
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely a great way to go. And also kind of, and I think Kanye in general, because he's such heavy into sampling, and he gets it. You talked about this last episode. He gets it from everywhere. So
yeah.
like that song, or even like Through the Wire, that stuff that someone might be like, "Oh man, I know," and that's even a popular song. I feel like most people know the original anyway. At least
Right.
I've heard it, randomly, and I'm like, I remember the first time hearing it, and I was like, "What the hell?" Because I just knew it was a Kanye song. I didn't know, obviously as I got older, realizing how much he sampled. But
Right.
yeah, those are. I think your pick was really good as well. So next topic, and this I think is going to be a quick one. Who's the best international artist of all time? Oh, before we go on to that, the last with the album, I had an honorable mention. Excuse My French by French Montana. I think people would love that album if they don't ever listen to hip hop. I know you're a big French Montana fan, so I just had to mention that.
Oh, you can't be serious, really?
No, I'm not. Of course.
Okay.
I remember
Thank
when
you.
that album was coming out, I was like, "Yeah, I can't wait! I can't wait!" You were like, "What the hell? You shut
Oh
up."
man, I almost left the meet here. I almost left the Zoom call.
Yeah. um, so as I said, who's the best international hip hop artist of all time? And I think we both can agree he's the best, he's the biggest. It's Drake. I think that's, he's not from, if anyone doesn't know, he's not from America, he's from Canada, he's from Toronto. I don't know if anyone doesn't know that, you're living under a rock, but he literally has an album called Views from the Six. So or Views, sorry, it was originally Views from the Six, but it's Views. But yeah, Drake, I think, he's the biggest rapper. He's, to me, the best internationally. But I think because that's without, everyone knows that. So we're not going to say that. So I'm going to go to the second. And I think I'm going to go with 21 Savage because he's from England. but he was born there. So,
Mm-hmm.
and even though, so that was also a joke pick. I'm not going to say that with him because he's really born there, but he's not really. He's from Atlanta.
Hey,
So
you had me sold. I was about to invest in what you were saying because yeah, he's from England, so I was gonna
yeah,
go with it.
so he's from England, but you could say the same with like J. Cole. J. Cole was born in like Germany, actually. So it's like the same thing. Obviously, I think 21 Savage might have spent a few years. I think J. Cole was like fresh when he came here, freshly born. So I think 21 Savage might have been a few years old, but I won't even go because he reps Atlanta and he's
Yeah.
you would have when I found out he was from England, everyone I think was surprised at like what?
Yeah.
He doesn't have any accent or anything. So I'm gonna skip past that as well. I'm actually gonna go with Skepta. I think Skepta, obviously Drake is number one, but 21 Savage, you could say. But I think Skepta, just because he's from England, you know that, and he sounds like it. I think Skepta I was in between him or Stormzy, but I think Stormzy might be a little better, but I think Skepta is bigger in terms of he was the first London hip hop artist I've heard of. I think because Drake was really years ago really trying to put him on. Then I actually listened to him because of Drake. Drake was, like I said, putting him on, and I was just like, all right, I'll give him a shot. And I really loved his album. I forgot what album that was. It was probably like 2016, 2017.
Konnichiwa?
But I would say Skepta. I
Is it
don't think it's
Konnichiwa?
that.
No.
Maybe it might have
Okay.
been. But I really liked him, and I have to just put him a little above Stormzy. I think Stormzy, over there might be bigger. That's what I've heard. But I think internationally, I would think Skepta. I feel like most people know, if you know any international artists besides Drake, people from Canada, you would know Skepta. I feel like he's really mainstream in terms of just being international. Not obviously, you don't hear him on the radio, but I think most people know of the name Skepta. Mm-hmm. So if I were going to say the biggest international artist of all time, or international artist, I would have to go with Skepta, 1 or 2 behind Drake. But we all know Drake's number 1, I feel like. But he might not be to you. I don't know.
Well, so I think it's a lot harder to think about it. Realistically, I think it's not as easy as it might seem. Drake is really big, but I was really going for who's the best, who's better, in terms of if you put numbers aside for a second, who's better. And I was trying to go for make the argument for somebody from England too. I definitely like Skepta. I think Stormzy has potential to be. I just think that he needs to get a little bit bigger, and he needs to, kind of have more to his catalog, But I think, if Stormzy can just continue the role that he's on right now and just keep making albums and keep making songs, I think there's no reason why he can't be bigger than Drake in a few years.
Drake.
Because I feel like
Drake.
Yeah, I feel like Grime.
That you ever see that
Drake?
That Soulja Boy Drake.
Yeah. So I don't know, I feel like if he can continue to bring grime into the mainstream a little bit more, and just kind of keep going and keep collaborating with people like Ed Sheeran, and just coming up with these different sounds and different people to collaborate, why can't he be bigger than Drake? I mean, maybe he won't be bigger than Drake, but why can't he be on the same level? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that he's, in terms of rapping, I think that he might be even a little bit better than Drake right now as a rapper. Maybe not successfully, but again, just in terms of the skill of rapping, he might be better. But I think that there's a lot of great people out in England too. There's Wiley. Wiley was pretty much along with Skepta, one of the godfathers of grime. You also have somebody a guy like Slow Tie, who's kind of new, who's also really good. But anyway, at the end of the day, I still think that Drake is the best international, in terms of rapping and all that kind of stuff. But and I kind of said put numbers to the side for a little bit, but some of the numbers for him, you can't not mention them. For example, he holds the record for most top 10 singles on the US Billboard with 40. And it only took him 11 years to do it. So, imagine this guy has another 10-year run, and it's going to be ridiculous. He beat out people like Madonna, the Beatles, Rihanna, Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, even Lil Wayne, who is his mentor, all on, that same list. Taylor Swift is another one that he beats out. And Taylor Swift is huge,
Yeah,
so
Taylor Swift and Adele are 3 top people.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that when you beat out artists like that as a hip hop artist, that shows that you're doing something right, because like the only other rapper that's on this list is Lil Wayne, and Lil Wayne had some success, obviously, but the fact that like those are the only two hip hop artists on that list is pretty, incredible. 258 total entries on the Hot 100.
God
Like
damn.
what? Like what? Like, and it's just gonna keep going. It's gonna like,
I know.
it's gonna keep going. 5 of his 6 studio albums are multi-platinum, and the only one that's not is Certified Lover Boy, and like that's it's like
coming.
a month old. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So like 5 of his 6 studio albums, that doesn't even include like the other ones, like What a Time It Is to Be Alive, If You're Reading This Is Too Late, which is technically a mixtape, More Life, which is technically a playlist. Those are all platinum too. Even like, so even when he did So Far Gone, the EP instead of the mixtape, even that went gold. So like he took like a mixtape and dumbed it down and released it years later after the mixtape came out, and it still went gold. So like that's pretty impressive as well.
Yeah.
In terms of his songs, like there's too many to count, too many gold, silver, platinum songs, like you can't even name them all. And then lastly, again, like I said, the numbers kind of like speak for themselves, but numbers aside for a little bit, like, again, change kind of hip hop by making it like okay to be emotional, again, changing kind of like the whole like, attitude and persona that's a lot of hip hop artists today kind of like carry on with them, like there's not so many like, again, like aggressive and like gangster rappers out there anymore. And I feel like Drake played a role in that. I don't think he was like, the influencer, like the main influencer, because I think with that kind of thing, like there took a lot of influencers to do that. Like, again, Kanye was one of them, and Drake, and, even like a Kid Cudi, they were all kind of like influencers on like being emotional and in your rap music. So I think about
even
something
J.
like
Cole
that
too.
Yeah, even
And
J.
Kendrick,
Cole.
they're
Right.
themselves. They're not putting on this actor. Some,
Right.
obviously not every artist is putting on an act, but some, as other artists have said, put on an act for the music or for the shows or for the videos. And those guys aren't putting on an act, and they all should be. Like Drake obviously is the biggest, but they all are influential in this new, even like we talked about with like emo rap. Like obviously they're not that, but they're with your emotions. They said it's okay to talk about and express your emotions.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just think the way that he kind of changed rap, it's a good point for him to, again, be one of the greatest international, if not the greatest international rapper of all time. And again, just, things that we already know, like embracing, like, kind of like a singing style into his rap music too, like is something that not a lot of people did before him. And just kind of made rap music relatable to people. Like for me, like, before, all the rap music I listened to before, like I never really related to it until he came along, because, I've had some of the same experiences. Like I've had my heart broken before. And, I've had like these kind of like, things that that I can relate to him with,
Yeah.
So I feel like he kind of made it relatable to a bigger audience.
Definitely.
And then the last 2 points I just want to make about him too. I think, to me personally, he's got 2 classics. Take Care, I think, is a classic. And I'm going to go as far to say So Far Gone is a classic, just in terms of like a mixtape perspective. Like, I think that's, one of the most successful mixtapes of all time. And you can have a debate on whether or not it's good or not, or whether you think it's one of the greatest mixtapes of all time. And I'm not going to sit here and say that it's going to go toe to toe with like a Lil Wayne mixtape or something like that. But I just think, like, in terms of like the success that it had and kind of what it did for him, I think it's a really important part in his discography. And then I'll let you speak about that a little bit later. But then the last thing I just want to say too is, like, when he wants to rap, he can rap. Like when he wants to do it, the question is always like why doesn't he do it enough, or why doesn't he do it consistently? But like, again, going back to like I debated on, talking about Stormzy or Skepta, like, I'm not going to say that he would win or anything like that, but like, if he were to go toe to toe with one of those guys, like he could make it interesting. Like, I don't think that he might win. Like Skepta or, Stormzy might, kill him, because they're like pretty good rappers themselves. But, I think that he can make it interesting, especially again, when he can rap, like he really wants to rap, like when he's really like trying his hardest and putting on some like killer bars, like he can do it. Like, just take a look at some of the other songs, like 0 to 100, or even like Back to Back. Like, those are some great songs that he just kind of, came out with, and again, kind of shows that he can go toe to toe with some people. And so that's just kind of me. That's kind of why I think that in terms of just numbers, like, yes, of course, he's the biggest international rapper. But I also think, in terms of just skill, like he can do a few things. And I think that's kind of what puts him as, the best international rapper of all time.
All right. So two things. One is before that thing, I was very eager to say, I think Drake can go toe to toe with almost anyone. I think like he's went toe to toe multiple times with Jay-Z. So if you can go toe to toe with Jay-Z, I'm pretty sure you can go toe to toe with anyone. So I actually think you discredit him in his rap, like, because as he's gotten older or as he's progressed his career, he's rapping less, like really rapping less. It's more the hits and then like the slow songs. But when Drake raps, like on Pound Cake, to me, he's toe to toe with Jay-Z. And that's to me one of his best songs. So I think Drake, when he wants to rap, he's up there. Like when he, with any rapper, I think he can at least make it interesting.
Right.
And then the thing I really wanted to say was, you don't think Nothing Was the Same as a classic?
I don't. I really don't.
To me, that's his best.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I feel like with that album, and you kind of talked about this last week with like Lil Wayne, but like that album to me hasn't aged well with me. And for whatever the reason is, I don't know why. I think maybe it was because like part of it, like, I didn't really like Started From the Bottom when it came out, and I started to like it a little bit more, but now I'm starting to think like, yeah, this still is really not that best of a song. I also think of like some of the other songs, like what was the one that he had? It was basically just like drop down, drop. It was like a strip club anthem.
305 to My City.
Yeah, like that song is so lame. It's so lame, and it's just so like it's just not good. And I don't know, like I would agree. Like there are some of his songs on there that are some of his best. Like Pound Cake for me is like a top 5 song for him. I also love this. Even that one, like I don't know,
wow, okay,
like I'm not like that one's kind of not sitting well with me anymore. Like I don't know, like I don't find that one to be as interesting as like a Pound Cake or like a Too Much. Like Too Much is a great, really great song. I even like I still love the song Furthest Thing, which is another great song. And The Language, like The Language is also really good. But like for me, like there are some songs in that album that either haven't been sitting well with me recently, or like I just kind of like overhyped them when they came out, and now they're just kind of like they're just kind of meh to me. Whereas like a Take Care or a So Far Gone, or even If You're Reading This Is Too Late, like for me personally, like those albums, like I love almost every track on it. So for me, like Nothing Was the Same is not really a classic to me, just because it's kind of like a mixed bag to me. Like he's got some of his best songs, but some of his other songs are just kind of like, they're kind of like whatever, they're kind of lame. So that's just me.
All right.
I know how much you like that album. So
it's grown on me over the years. It was always number 2 to me. Take Care was always number 1, but to me, Take Care is the one that is it's not aging as well to me. At least some of the rap stuff isn't to me. It's like the Motto, I can't listen to that song anymore. Just it's to me, it's not good anymore. But anyway, that's a different topic. So the next topic is, and I'll let you go first because I went first last time, is most overrated or underrated hip hop artists. So I'll let you take it first.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna start with my overrated. I think the most overrated, and I think you're gonna give me a lot of crap for this one. Especially since I mentioned them in one of our earlier segments today. But I think that the most overrated rapper of all time, not just like right now or, past like whatever years, I think the most overrated rapper of all time is Future.
Okay. Oh God, I thought you were gonna say Kanye. I was like, oh my God.
No,
I was about to end this. I was like, this show's over. We're not doing this anymore.
No, gosh, no, I would never overrate Kanye. I think Future is the most overrated rapper of all time. I think 7 number 1 albums. How does he have 7 number 1 albums? Shit. 7 number 1, and it's like basically like his last 7. So so like even, and that includes like What a Time It Is to Be Alive with Drake. Like how does he have 7 number 1 albums? Like I understand that people like him and like people kind of like vibe to his music, but I don't think that his music is that good to where like every single one of his albums is a number 1 on the Billboard charts.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I just don't see that. He's also the first artist since 2014 to debut 2 albums in consecutive weeks atop the Billboard charts.
It was Future and Hendrix, right?
Future and Hendrix, yeah. Which to me, like I passed by those. I passed by those albums. Like I didn't even listen to them. And so like to me, that's crazy too. He's 4th most on the Hot 100 hits in history. He's 4th
of hip hop artists or all time or any genre.
Of all, I think it's of all time. Like
holy crap.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that big.
Yeah. So like again, and I'm just kind of going back to like how is that possible? And I think a lot of that has to do with like, you know, his Drake collaborations. Like I think Drake at some points like carries him onto those lists, you know. He's also the type of guy for me, like he's also the type of guy like that will do anything to like get a paycheck. So like he will hop on any track with anybody, say whatever the hell he wants for however long he wants. And as long as he's getting paid, like, you know, that it's good for him, you know? So I feel like it's like that kind of similar. And I don't want to, you know, don't get it twisted or anything, but like, it's kind of the same with like Snoop Dogg in like his later part of his career. Like Snoop Dogg at one point would just get on anything for a paycheck. You know, but like, and I think the same thing with Future. I think Future just kind of does anything to get his money. And that kind of helps him kind of become one of the most like charted artists of all time. But in terms of like his music, like, I don't know, his albums to me just like aren't that good. Like I was into him like when he dropped like his first couple of albums. Like I loved Honest. Like I thought that was really
I remember
good.
you did.
Yeah, I like that album a lot. But as kind of time went on, like I just kind of noticed that like his music is just like the same shit. It's the same stuff, just like over and over again.
Yeah.
And you know, like again, like I give him credit for, you know, being again like a you know, a very big part of the trap scene and kind of, you know, pushing trap music. But at the same time, it's like substantially, like his music like just isn't lyrically or conceptually like that great. Like he doesn't really rap about like much other stuff, and he doesn't do it in a way that like is like almost like changing his style, or he doesn't like, you know, kind of like push like some of his ideas. Like he just kind of like stays in one lane the whole time. You know, it's like he's on cruise control. And so I feel like people kind of like respect that about him, and that's why he's so popular. But to me, just in terms of like talent, like I don't find him to be that appealing. I know you talk a lot about like Dirty Sprite too. Like even for me, like that album is just like not it's okay. Like it's not great.
That's my favorite of his, but
and so I don't know, like I can find good songs. I can find like an album of his that like I can like listen to, but like I don't know, like the numbers just don't add up to me. Like my view of him doesn't match the level of success and popularity that he's had. So just for me, like you know, he's kind of the most overrated. And I'll let you talk about your overrated artist, and we'll get into the underrated. But for me, Future is the most overrated.
So I have one, and I think it's everyone kind of feels the same way. Maybe she has her own fan group. So, but it's not who you might think it is. I think Cardi B is very overrated. Like I don't have the numbers for her, but her numbers are probably not similar as much as Future, but like in terms of numbers. Career length, she's one album,
right?
One, and it beat Daytona and Astroworld at the Grammys. I'll never get it. That's like almost to the level of Macklemore beating those other 4 albums that should have easily beat his. His should have been last on that. That's a different story. But I just think she's overrated. Her album was not that good. She's not that good. She's just, I think it's the mainstream eats up her ratchetness, her not having a filter, so people think it's funny, and they think of her. And I'm not discrediting her as an artist. I just don't think she's that good as she isn't a hip hop artist. She transitioned. She's a rapper now, but that doesn't mean she's a good rapper. Like I'm not saying she's not a rapper, because she is, but it's just people like her personality more, and all to her, you know, everything. Wish her nothing but success, but it's just the body of work, or the work doesn't match her success to me. Kind of how you say with Future. She's just not that good. So in terms of that, I think most people can agree on that. So someone I personally think is overrated, and I know you like him, is Tyler, the Creator. I have tried, even with his newest album, I tried a lot with Igor. I just couldn't get into Igor. I tried with his first album, and I think his second album I listened and then I didn't listen to like Flower Boy, or he has a few in there where I didn't really listen to. And then I tried with Igor because I remember you liked it, and I know it won album of the year. So I was like, all right, well, I kept trying and I just couldn't get into it. And then even with this newest album, it's probably my favorite of his, and I haven't revisited it since I listened to it. Maybe that first like 2 weeks where I was like listening to it. I just don't see it with him. I think he's cool. I like him as a person. I think he's awesome. I think what he's bringing to hip hop is awesome. But like same thing with Cardi B or Future. I just don't see the actual work. And I know he has a lot of, he's close with Pharrell, he's close with Pusha T, he's close with big artists. Kanye's collab with Lil Wayne's collab with multiple times. He has Pharrell and Lil Uzi Vert on his album. He has NBA YoungBoy on his album. Like he has big artists, and I know there's some others on his newest album, but I just don't see it with him. There's something, I don't know what I'm missing, or to me, I just don't get it with him. And like I said, I like him as a person. I think what he's pushing, his sexuality, you've never seen, I think, an artist being this openly bisexual in hip hop and being as big as he is, because he's one of the biggest artists, I would say. He's top 10 in terms of how big he is right now. But his work, I just never saw it with it. And I think I've heard he's grown since his first album. He's grown as an artist, but I still don't see it with him.
Yeah, so I have three things to say. So one, I definitely agree with your Cardi B take. I think that's, like exactly like what I said with Future, like the catalog just doesn't match up with the numbers. And I think that, that for her, it has a lot to do with the fact that, again, she's one of the very few women in hip hop right now who are trying to like keep that going and just kind of keep pushing it. So I feel like, she attracts like, an audience that's, female based as well, so I feel like that kind of like, kind of helps her. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I just think that she's more hype because of her personality rather than like her actual music. So I agree with you on that. I'm not going to say that I disagree with you on the Macklemore take. I do think that Macklemore's album is good. I don't agree that it should have won, that Grammy, but I think people hate on that album a lot. I actually listened to that album this weekend. So I don't know. Like for me personally, like I like him as a person, and I think that he, he can rap decently. I don't think that, he should be hated on as much as he is. I don't agree with the fact that he won Rap Album of the Year that year, especially over, I think he went against Kendrick, right?
Good Kid, Mad City, Magna Carta, Holy Grail, which I don't really like that album. Yeezus, and something else really good too. I think he was up against. Was it
okay?
Nas?
Was it Nothing Was the Same?
Nothing Was the Same.
Was it?
I think there's and maybe Nas's album.
Life Is Good, probably, maybe.
I think.
Yeah. So I don't like. Yeah, I mean, again, tough crowd. Like in terms of beating them all, like I definitely don't agree with that. But like
at least Good Kid, Mad City. How do you?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And I mean, if I had to say like, oh, which one do I listen to better? Like, or which one do I listen to more? Macklemore's album or that Jay-Z album? Like, I actually listen to Macklemore's album more than that Jay-Z.
I don't like that Jay-Z album.
So in terms of being last in that category, I don't know.
All right, maybe not.
But like, and like I said, like I think the bigger point I'm trying to make is like, I don't think that he should be hated on as much as he is for that album. He's had other albums after that suck. Don't get me wrong. So, but like that album, I think is a decent album for him. So I'm just going to go there with that. And then my last point is with Tyler. I think the reason why Tyler is so overrated is because he is such a mixed bag. You never know what you're going to get with Tyler. With like Goblin, like I thought it was like, it has some good songs. Like I think Yonkers is one of like my favorite hip hop tracks, like of all time. Like I think that's such a good song. I also love
She.
Yeah. She with Frank Ocean, right? Yeah.
That song still is good.
So great songs. And like, like it was a good album, and then he had Wolf, and Wolf was like, it was just weird. Again, some good songs on it, but just like a weird album. And then he had Cherry Bomb, and like, I didn't even listen to that because I heard it was so terrible. But then, like you said, like he kind of started to like almost like mature, like he started to mature, not just like as a rapper, but also just like, again, like we talk about some rappers as businessmen, right? Like, so like Odd Future, he kind of started that, and he put
Yeah.
people on an Earl Sweatshirt, who, I like him personally, but and a lot of people will say that, Earl Sweatshirt is very slept on, and I would agree, because like he's a really good rapper, and Tyler kind of put him on. So you have that, and then you kind of have like, to me, his two best albums are Flower Boy and Igor, and they kind of came back to back with each other. So I feel like he's progressed and matured, but then again, like for me, his newest album, it almost feels like a mixtape to me. Like it has like that
Yeah.
like mixtape kind of feel
DJ
to it.
drama.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So like for me, like it just, you never know what you're gonna get with him. And most of the time it's usually like a hit, like he like hits it like hard on, or it's just a complete miss, and so there, and again, we kind of talked about like Cardi B and Travis Scott, how they have like these like cult followings. Tyler the Creator has a cult following. Like
Definitely.
people will go to like, wit's end to defend like he's like the greatest rapper right now of all time, whatever, and for me, like I just feel like, again, he's so like inconsistent, but some people will just like overhype him and think that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and like I just, I don't go that far with it. I think he's got some great stuff, but yeah, I think that's kind of why he's viewed as overrated to some people, is like, you never know what you're going to get with him. He could have a really great album or a really great song, and then the next thing that he does, it flops completely.
Yeah.
So that's just how I feel about that. So
Yeah, and like Camp Flognaw, that festival he has, that thing is huge every year. He had Drake come out, like
right.
Drake do a set, even though he got booed because they thought it was gonna
Yeah.
be Frank Ocean, but still.
Yeah.
And he also kind of started with Frank Ocean too. He started with Odd Future, then he left,
Right.
but he was in that when Odd Future came up, he was with them.
Exactly.
And so yeah, I have to agree with that. And another artist, even though I think most people can agree, I don't know, I know you liked him, but Chance the Rapper too, like the what was the most recent album, the one with the Clear. That
Yeah.
was awful.
His debut, right? That's his debut
That's
album.
technically his debut. Yeah, because the other one,
Yeah.
which I think was all right. I know you liked it. A Coloring Book.
Coloring Book. Yeah.
I thought I liked like half of it. I thought some of it was good. And then I never really got into acid rap. I just couldn't get into that. I think it's also his voice. I just can't get into that.
Yeah.
Even though I like Young Thug, which is probably not much
say,
better,
yeah.
but yeah, his voice annoys me. So he's also another one, but he kind of fell off big after he dropped that album. Yeah, everyone was like, all right, we're done with you, essentially. But
yeah, I mean, I feel like his career still hasn't like gone as far as it possibly can yet. So like I'm still willing to give him a little bit of a chance. No pun intended, but but yeah, like I don't know, like I personally liked acid rap. I liked Coloring Book. I even liked his first mixtape, which was called 10 Day, which was kind of I just liked it because he made that mixtape because he got suspended from school, so he made a mixtape during that 10-day suspension. So I just like that concept. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like the debut album didn't go well, and maybe that kind of like, you kind of have to tip your cap to him, because for a long time he's always been about like not kind of making his music that commercial and that like like marketing it that way, and then he finally does it and it like tanks. So he probably should like be listening to him. Like he probably makes better music when it's not being like popularized or kind of like put in that mainstream. So I don't know, I'm still willing to give him like a more of a chance with his career, but yeah, I totally agree. Like his debut album just like flopped and it was not good. So so yeah, I think he's a good pick. What is your most underrated rapper?
I'll let you go first, because
I'm gonna go.
Yeah, we went back to back, so I'll let you go first on that one.
All right. Yeah, I had a couple that I wanted to say, but I think that this person, this rapper, really, like, to me, kind of solidifies like the term underrated. And I don't know like how much you've listened to this person, or if you like, I don't know, like I just don't know how much of like this person's catalog you listen to. But for me, like the most underrated rapper that I've ever heard of and that I've ever listened to is Talib Kweli.
Okay, I've never really listened to him.
Yeah, I think that he's so underrated. I think first off, he has a solo album. He's got a lot of solo albums, but the first one was called Quality, and that is like that's like his best in terms of like his certifications. Like that's his best album, and it's only gold. Everything else that he's done hasn't even touched gold, and I think that that's just, I don't know, like to me that's very underrated because just of the way he raps. Like I think he's a really good rapper, and I think he's a lot better than just having one gold album on his resume. He also did like a really, really, I think to me, it's a classic album. It's with Mos Def.
Yeah.
called Black Star. I think that that's like another quintessential like 90s hip hop album. And I think it gets so overlooked by a lot of people because, again, the 90s was a big time and you had so many big artists. And I feel like with them, they kind of got like the short end of the stick there. You know, like they came out with a really classic album in the 90s, but because it was the 90s and they were competing with people like Biggie and Jay-Z and Nas and Pac and all these people, you know, they kind of got the short end of the stick. And that's why it only reached like number 53 on the Billboard 200. So I think about that. I think about like, you know, he's got a great song called Get By, which was produced by Kanye. And that's probably like his biggest single. And it's the only, it's his only solo song of his to actually make it on the Billboard Hot 100. So he has one song. And this is a guy who's like, again, has had a classic album with another classic rapper. He's had some other great like studio albums. Like one of his studio albums that I like a lot called Eardrum is it reached number 2. But it just amazes me like he only has one song that's ever reached the Hot 100, and that song, even like that song got to like 77, so not super high on the list. So I just think about like all of his singles and just like how like, you know, they haven't reached the chart success that I think that they should. And I also just think about like his collaborations. He has a lot of collaborations. And again, the fact like we talked about Future and how he kind of rides that Drake collaboration to get on the charts. Like if you look at some of the people that Talib Kweli has rapped with, and still it amazes me that he hasn't gotten more chart success. Like he's rapped with, again, Mos Def. He's rapped with Kanye and Common on the song Get 'Em High. Off a College Dropout. You know, he's rapped with UGK, Static Selecta. He has a good connection with the producer High Tech, who's also kind of like, you know, known for what he does. He's rapped with KRS-One. He's even done songs with Quincy Jones, Nelly, Mac Miller, Chris Webby, who's actually a Connecticut-based rapper that I don't know if you ever heard of him, but just like, you know, rapping with like some underground people, you know, Chris Webby, he's done a song with Grizz, who's you know, a kind of like almost like a Skrillex kind of producer, you know, like kind of like a dubstep or something like that. He's also done a song with Anderson .Paak. He's done songs with A Tribe Called Quest, Bun B. So he's worked with all of these like great hip hop artists and still like doesn't get perceived or doesn't get like the numbers that maybe he should. And then the last couple things that I just want to say, I also think that if it wasn't for Eminem and 50 Cent and their like big kind of like, I don't know, like just how big they were in the 2000s, I feel like Talib Kweli would be bigger than what he is too. Because again, like he just got stuck in like two really difficult eras to be stuck in. Like he got stuck in the 90s and he got the short end of the stick there because there's so many big artists. Then Eminem and 50 Cent go into the 2000s. And that's when Talib Kweli really started to become like his own like solo act. And because Eminem and 50 Cent were so big, like he didn't get the attention that other people were giving Eminem and 50 Cent. So I feel like he got kind of stuck in like both of those eras and it just kind of hurt his career. And so the last thing I just want to say about him, just some of like, you know, his talents as a rapper, you know, embracing the idea of conscious rap, like he's, you know, a very conscious rapper. And I think a lot of people who like that kind of rap will listen to him. But then in terms of like, if you're listening for like a song, just for like, again, like a good hook and like a catchy beat and like, you know, something that you can sing along to, like, he's not your guy. He's not the guy to do that. So he kind of embraces like that conscious rap, you know, kind of like talking about street life and modern day issues, philosophical ideas and all that stuff. So I think in terms of that, like it kind of like docks him a little bit. He also like, I think he has his own sound. Like when you hear his voice, like, you know, oh, that's Talib Kweli to me personally. Like I can tell his voice from any other rapper. I think he's got one of the best flows in the game. Like there's a rare point where I hear him on a track and like I think, oh, that flow was just like choppy, or it was like, you know, like he's doing something weird that like he just kind of like goes in. He's given a beat and he finds a way to fit that beat. And then lastly, you know, we talked a lot about this when we were talking about like our most influential artists in hip hop. Like to me personally, like his activism on record and in pop culture, just like, you know, it kind of checks all those same boxes that we gave like, you know, like a Tupac or even like a Kendrick, like, you know, or even like a Nipsey Hussle. Like, you know, he kind of checks those boxes and, you know, uses his rap to kind of be an activist for, you know, social issues. So I think when you think of all those things, And the fact that he's not as big as he should be based on all those things, to me, that makes him the most underrated rapper of all time. Like, I think he's a great rapper, and I just don't think he gets the credit that he deserves because of some of the challenges that he kind of had to face throughout his career. So that's my pick.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. And he's someone I've only really honestly probably heard a handful of songs from. I've never really listened to him. I Get Him High is probably the song I've heard him on most.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good pick. So for mine, it's 6ix9ine. No, I'm kidding. It's actually so mine is, he's had a platinum album or maybe two. He's been successful. He had a run, but it kind of went down. So he was like, but I think he should be up there in those top rappers currently, is Logic. I think Logic is he can, like, you're talking about like current rappers, like he can rap bar to bar, I think, with anyone in hip hop right now. And I think, he had, obviously it's not to the level of Talib Kweli in terms of, you said number 53 was his highest charting was his first album was at number 53, right?
Yeah, so his album with Mos Def, got to 53.
Yeah, like that's not, Logic has had, this album, Everybody, like was a big album that year, went platinum. He was on the VMAs, he was on Grammys, he's had success. But I think in terms of, in this generation, of being acknowledged as a really good rapper, like the top tier, obviously most people is Drake, J. Cole, Kendrick, and then you have like guys under them, like see people say Tyler the Creator, Big Sean, or Meek Mill, or other people in that generation, a Future, you could even say. But I think Logic gets underlooked a lot in terms of current rappers. And he said he retired, but he released a new album, and I think or his last album, No Pressure, and then he released a mixtape, Bobby Tarantino 3. Like his mixtapes, the Bobby Tarantino mixtapes, of him just going off and rapping over trap beats or anything hot. He talks about it. He's like, you can rap still on a hot beat. You don't have to just say crap. You can actually still rap. And then, on his albums, every album, I think he puts on a really good storytelling and really good. Each song has a meaning or a purpose, and I think he's very underrated in that aspect of, like, in terms of not the recognition. I think obviously he doesn't go as high selling as he did when he had that song, the song with the suicide help line, or he had Black Spider-Man was a big song around that time. Everybody was, that album was peak, and then he kind of fallen off a little since then in terms of popularity, but his skill has not. And I think that's something that I think, in terms of actually underrated in terms of the skill, I think he's someone that should be in that top tier of rappers. And if not, at least in that top tier, at least that second tier. I think he can, like I said, out rap or rap with any current rapper. He's that good. And I don't know if did you listen to No Pressure? That was his last album.
No.
So he has a song called A to Z, where he's literally rapping the alphabet, and he's going from like A to Z, but he's rapping about topics within that. And I think it's also really good. Like, that's a great song, I feel like. And I feel like that's something, like, also, like, with No Pressure, he didn't get, not many people talked about it. He just talked about it's his last solo album, and then it kind of just went by the wayside. That's another really good album where I feel like he doesn't get talked about it much. Everyone knows Everybody. Most people know that album, Everybody, because that was his peak. But before that, with Under Pressure, and I forgot the name of the second album, but that album was really good. Then he had Everybody, then he had a fourth album, then No Pressure. And I think he's just, and his mixtapes, I think he's very slept on in terms of his skill and how good he actually is. I think, obviously, like I said, the sales, not like Talib Kweli, he doesn't have the sales that Logic had, but I think in terms of being respected or being acknowledged, I think Logic is very underrated in that sense.
Yeah, I that's a good pick. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, that's a good pick. And I say that's a good pick because I honestly, other than that song that you talked about, the one that's titled with the suicide hotline, like that's the only song of his that I've actually really listened to. And so I think that calling him underrated is a really good, thing, because I don't listen to a lot of his music based on reviews and what people have said about him. Like, for the most part, like, his reviews he doesn't get like high scores on his reviews, and he doesn't get like, for the most part, doesn't get like a lot of chart success. And, also just, again, like, doesn't get the charts, doesn't get like the reviews, and just people just say like, oh, he's not that good. And so I feel like that's why I haven't really like given him the respect to listen to him, is just because of all the things that I've heard. So so that definitely makes me want to kind of like, okay, like now actually listen to him and see like, if I can make an opinion about him myself, because the most part I haven't listened to him just because of everything that I've heard. So yeah, that's a good pick. That kind of surprised me.
So yeah, like I think you'll love, like I think if you a good introduction album to him is the one Everybody, that has that song. He has a song Killer Mike Confess, and it's so good. And he has a song, what is it? Take It Back. And he's talking about his origin story and how, people say, oh, he looks white. I always thought he's white. Then the first time I heard him say the N-word, I was like, yo, whoa. What are you doing? I was like, yo, this is not kosher. And then I realized, I was like, whoa. But then my brother, I was like, yo, is Logic mixed? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. It's like, all right, we're going to avoid it. This is a big thing we're about to avoid here. But he has that album is really good. And if you're going to listen, like kind of like introduction album to anyone, that's the album I would listen to. And he also has the album before that, where that's telling a whole story as well. And he's basically like, it's like the Earth is already gone. And it's also like these astronauts are like, oh, let's listen to Logic. And then they listen to, like, it's a cool concept. But if you're going to listen to anything Logic, listen to Everybody, because that's a really good album. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I think your pick was also really good with Talib Kweli, because he's someone that, like I said, doesn't have this chart success or the mainstream, even if you said like Logic's albums don't get rated well, but he at least had a platinum album, and he has a few platinum singles, I think. So I think in terms of that, like Talib Kweli doesn't have any of that, but also they're both underrated skillfully, I think, just to different levels.
Yeah, and the last thing I'm going to say too is like with Talib, like again, like I kind of touched on like how like he has a very distinct voice, and like I feel like most people in hip hop, like whenever they hear like a feature from him, like they automatically go, oh, that's Talib Kweli, and it's just, again, like he has like that recognition from people, but it's just like everything that, like when you look at like his stat line, basically, like it again kind of like with Future and like Overrated, like again, same with Talib Kweli, like his musical talents don't match up with his success, so like with Future, like I don't think he's that good and he's got major success, whereas Talib Kweli, like I think he's really good and he doesn't have the success. So just for me, like he's underrated in that regard. So
yeah, awesome. So we'll get on the last topic and we'll make this a shorter one. We apologize, everyone. We were trying to get shorter episodes, and we just, obviously this shows how much we love hip hop and we love talking about it. We can't shut up about it. So we'll make this last one a quick topic. So most controversial rap song of all time. And it might not be the most, to me, it might not be the most, the words that they're saying is crazy, but I think what it meant at the time, and it still means, I think, to this time. And you saw it in Us. I don't know if you saw the movie Us by Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele. The movie Us, and it's playing in that movie is Fuck the Police by NWA. It might not be the most, lyrically like damaging, or you're like, what the hell? Because you could say Kim might be the craziest song you ever hear, but by Eminem. But in terms of what it meant and what it kind of still means to this day, and what everyone, not everyone, but most people hear it and they're like, they know at least the first words. Everyone knows that because that's the name of the song. So I think personally, to me, I think Fuck the Police by NWA is the most controversial song in terms of what it meant and what it still means to this day.
Yeah, that was one of the top like honorable mentions for me too. Was like, again, you kind of said it exactly the right way. Like, it's not the first time and it won't be the last time where like rappers are like dissing the police, but just the way like they presented that song, and for its time, like it wasn't like, it wasn't known to do something like that. So yeah, that was when I kind of researched a little bit, like what some other people like online were thinking of, like what the most controversial song was. And that one came up and I was like, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. My most controversial song is actually one that we've talked about before and kind of one that you just mentioned, but yeah, it's Kim with Eminem. Like that song, whew, man, how the hell does he still have a career after making a song like that? You know what I mean? Like, and that's really like when I try to do some research and kind of think of like other songs, but the one that comes into my head first is that one, because again, I don't know how he has a career after that. When you're starting off a song like talking to your newborn baby, and then all of a sudden you just start going, sit down, bitch, you move again, I'll beat the shit out of you. Like, what the hell? Like, how? And then it just goes from there. He's yelling at his wife. Like he murders her husband. and the son of her husband, who's like 4 years old. And then you find out, oh, he's like a cheater too. So like he's kind of being a little bit like hypocritical. And then just like, you know, like talking about like laying dead with a slit throat in your living room. And, you know, the third verse where he's like pulling her out of the car. And like, I'm starting to get like serial killer, like, movie images in my head with this song, you know, like she's like running out of the car. First of all, she's in the trunk. And then they get to the spot where he's basically going to kill her and dump her off. And she's trying to run away. And he's like pulling her back, like by like the hair and shit. And like, you know, you get like a sense of like bipolar disorder with him too. Like, you know, he's like so angry at her, but then he's like, oh, remember when you did this and stuff like that. And then it's like, yeah, then he starts yelling at her again. It's like crazy. Like he's going from like being like really like nostalgic and like happy, and then all of a sudden like he just like wants to kill her again, and it's like crazy.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I'm here to kill you.
Yeah, and then like, you know, the song ends with like him like framing her for like the murder of her husband and his son, but also like her own death, like basically going to be like, oh yeah, you killed both of them and then you killed yourself, so I had nothing to do with any of this. And then like, you know, again, just trying to run and grab her, and then of course it ends with like just screaming the word bleed, like
he's strangling her.
Yeah, like 10 times, like bleed, bitch, bleed. And I think you actually, don't you hear at the end like a little snippet of like dragging a body through the woods or something like that? Like you hear like leaves rustling, like all of that shit, man, like in one track. Like it's just too much. It's too much for me. And like, again, I don't understand like how people, obviously it wasn't a single, so it wasn't on the radio, but like how does he have a career after a song like that? You know, like I don't care like what year it came out. Like I think it was Marshall Mathers LP, so it came out in 2000. But like, man, like how did he not get like so much more shit for that song than he probably did? Like he definitely did get some shit for it, but like again, that's like for some people like today, like that would be career ending. Like you know what I mean? So to me, that's the most controversial song. Like I don't know how he came back from that. I really don't. It still blows my mind today.
And at that point, there's one point where she's screaming. He's like, no one can hear you. I'll yell too. Start screaming too. You're like, yo,
right.
God damn.
Yeah, it's just from start to finish, like the like craziest song I've probably ever heard. Not just in hip hop, just like in regular music. Like nothing. I don't think anything tops that for me. Yeah.
So that's definitely number 2 for me. That song is crazy, and I have to agree with everything you said. Only reason I said NWA, that, you know, fuck the police, just because what it means. But in terms of the words, I don't think anything comes close to Kim.
Right.
That shit's wild. Oh. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you everyone for listening. You know, we're wrapping the show up. This is the end of the show. Let us know what you thought of what the topics and what our opinions were. Let us know what your opinions are, who you think, you know, is on your Mount Rushmore trap, or who do you think, if you were going to give someone a first time hip hop listener, what album would you give them? Or who's the best international hip hop artist? If you say anything but Drake, you're wrong. Most overrated hip hop and most underrated hip hop artists. And then also, like we just said, most controversial hip hop song. Let us know what you think in the comments, in the DMs, in the tweets. Let us know what you think. We love to hear it from you guys. So as we do every episode, we're going to do the album review. So this week, on the last episode, I gave Kyle an album, Jeffrey by Young Thug. So take it away. What do you think of Jeffrey by Young Thug?
So I'll just start off with the first track. The first track, I actually, when I first played that, I was like, wow, this is definitely something I can get behind. Like I loved everything about that first track, which is are all of his tracks. Yeah, are all of his tracks named after like people or
his
like
idols?
Okay, so I think that was a great track. Like I love the chorus on that. I love his singing, especially on the hook, and I also really like the ska and reggae kind of like almost like rhythm to it. So I did really like that song. From there on out, I feel like we get a mixed bag.
Okay.
So the next one, Floyd Mayweather, like I thought that had potential to be a really good song. I especially love like the piano loop. I just feel like it goes on for too long. And it gets to a point where like, I think, isn't that the one with Travis Scott, right? That's the one with Travis Scott,
Gucci Mane, Gunna.
Okay. Okay. So yes. So I thought that when Travis was going to start coming in, like I thought the beat was going to get like harder. And I was kind of disappointed with the fact that it goes for like almost 6 minutes with just that same little piano loop.
Yeah.
And I also like, it's kind of funny. So when I was listening to that song, I was thinking like, this sounds like a Gucci Mane song. And then I found out that Gucci Mane is actually on it. So,
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, like that kind of makes sense. I like the style of it. Like to me, it kind of reminds me of like a rainy day. Like you can just kind of like get like that rainy day feel with that song. But for me, it
Yeah.
just goes on for a little bit too long.
Yeah.
I did like the song Swizz Beats. I did like the production on that. It kind of sounds like it's like a little bit like underwater almost a little bit. And I think Thugger's performance on it is pretty good. I think he has a good another good song was Future Swag. I think
that's supposed to be Future. Yeah, Fucking Your Baby Mom. He just says the same thing over and over. Like
Yeah.
Future.
So right. So it's like, it's got a classic trap beat. I like his flow on it. I also kind of like the song Riri. I like the chorus a lot with that. I think that, his
He
reference to the song Work. Yeah, I think that was really kind of creative. And then the one with Migos, I thought that one was okay. I thought that song was just, to me, it was just a song to get Migos on a song. And just kind of say like I have a track with Migos on this album. So I thought that one was, I thought it was just okay. I started to lose it at the Harambe song, to be honest with you.
Oh man, I love that shit.
I feel like when he's like screaming or like kind of like yelling, like it almost sounds like Lil Jon to me. Like it sounds like a Lil Jon impersonation. And his voice on that song just gets annoying to me after a while. Like I just can't stand his voice on that one for too long, which is, like,
I understand.
For one song to be on this album where I just can't stand his voice, that's really the only one. Like other than that, like, I was actually okay with like his singing and stuff like that. I did like Webby. I like the kind of like the synth heavy production and the keyboards. But I think my favorite song, actually, other than the Wyclef Jean one, is the Kanye West song. And I like that one a lot because of Wyclef Jean, who's on it. Like I think
it's funny he's on that song.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think that that's kind of funny, but I also just think that like he has like really good parts in that, and he's not doing a whole lot. Like Wyclef Jean, he has a good verse, but he also has like these like really cool like ad libs and melodies that he's putting on the track as well. And I feel like that just kind of fits. There were some corny lines on that one, like Thugger is like saying like I put it in her butt and then beat it up. Like I thought that was kind of weird. And then like the squirted on me and made a mess line. Like I was like, okay, like, that's just who he is. But I don't know. Like I thought it was okay. I wasn't too crazy about it. I'm going back to some of the things that you said about Young Thug last week. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if he's got like the second or the best flow in hip hop or anything like that. But I didn't mind it. This is actually an album like I had been wanting to listen to for a while, and I just never got around to it. So I'm glad that you kind of gave it to me, but I don't know. It's just a mixed bag. I definitely will go back to certain tracks, but I don't know if I would like want to spend more time listening to it as a whole album. That's just my opinion, but thank you for recommending it, because I definitely did want to check it out at some point.
Now you listen to Young Thug, you popped your Young Thug cherry.
I did. It's done. It's over. It's over.
Yep. Smooth sailing from here. Before, I don't want to give you another album, but an EP of his, On the Run. It's like 4 songs. It's good. Cool. He has a song with Elton John. Okay. It's a quick listen. Awesome. But I'm happy you didn't hate it. I'm happy.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I definitely like, I don't know, like it's not something great or like groundbreaking to me. I definitely, like I said, I definitely get like, like Lil Jon, Gucci Mane, Future kind of like impersonations a little bit sometimes. And I feel like, he's very like, I don't know, versatile enough to have like his own sound. So I don't feel like he needs to like do some of that,
Okay,
But yeah, no, like I said, I didn't hate it. Just, not something that I would like be like, oh my God, like you got to listen to this,
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I said this might be the first non-love, like really like album, because the 2 you gave me, I really liked. And then you liked question mark. So
I did.
All right. So I got one for you next time. But It's your turn now to give me an album.
Yeah. Okay. So we were kind of talking about like most underrated artists in this episode. And I think this is a person I think is really underrated like right now, maybe not in terms of their career, because it hasn't been long enough yet, but I think this is a really underrated artist right now. So my album that I'm going to give you to listen to for this week is Taboo by Denzel Curry. I think that is a great album. Have you already heard it?
No. But
okay,
I love Zoo.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I love Zoo. I started listening. One of my coworkers said in the beginning of the year, like, you ever listen to Denzel Curry? And I was like, nah. And then he's like, told me about Zoo. He told me like, if you're gonna listen, just listen to Zoo. That was his favorite. And I That's one of my, I listen to that like a decent amount. It's a good album. So I'm excited. I've wanted to listen to Taboo, but I haven't.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like in the same boat there. Like I also like for a while I liked Zoo better than Taboo, I think. But as I've listened to Taboo a little bit more, like to me, like it's a little bit more of a better album. Just in
Okay.
terms of like a whole like collective project, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that that one's like, you know, probably like I don't know. I don't want to say it's his best yet, but I think it's a really good album, and it's definitely one that's grown on me a lot. And also just like a little side note, if you do like Taboo and you want to like experience a little bit more, he also has like an EP kind of like albumish thing with Kenny Beats, which is also
Okay.
really good. So and it's only like 20 minutes long. It's pretty short. So but yeah, so Taboo by Denzel Curry, one of my favorite artists right now for sure.
Yeah. I'm excited because I really like Zoo. And like I said, it was this year I started listening to that, and
Yeah,
I could listen to the whole thing. It's not a song I actually skip. So uh
yeah,
awesome. So I'm going to listen to
cool.
Taboo by Denzel Curry for
All
next
right,
week. Awesome. This is a
sweet.
really good episode. I'm happy how it went. Let us know what you guys think. Like I said, in the comments and the DMs and the tweets. Uh, Follow us on social media at on Twitter at We Debate Hip Hop, on Instagram at the Hip Hop Debate. Subscribe on YouTube at the Hip Hop Debate, and you can listen on all streaming platforms to the podcast. If it's not on yours, let us know and we can get it on yours, the one you prefer. And then also, like I said, we're on YouTube as well, so the video version. So that is it for today's episode, this week's episode. So we hope you guys enjoyed it, and let us know what you think in the comments and the tweets. Deuces.
Bye everybody.